Response video to some comments left by To Be Serious. This is her channel page there in the background. Anyway, so these are comments she left on a, lemon, what the hell is his name? I forgot his name. Yeah, whatever. The Stink of Lemonade or something. I can't remember. But anyway, nice guy. But this is just such crap. These comments, and so yeah, we'll go through just To Be Serious's comments. So I've edited out everybody else's comments and we'll just read her crap. There's, there's quotes and stuff. So Boo Boo has apparently said something really embarrassing themselves, and I'm really embarrassed at silly willful defeatism of ANs, I guess that's anti-Natalists, who insist that there are only two options: endless suffering or no life at all. Well, I don't even know if they say endless suffering. What they say is that it's a scam. It's a sham. So it's kind of like a tobacco company, for example, let's say, and they have a business, and their business is selling this addictive product. And so they put more of the addictive agent into the product, and the customers are basically happy because they're saying, I want more addictive product. I like the fun. I like the chase. I like getting. I like wanting. But yeah, you could look at it very cynically and just say, but this is stupid, okay? The whole reason they're chasing is because I've taken advantage of some addictive nature they've had, and I'm going to sell them a product that does them absolutely no good, really. It's all an illusion of satisfaction created entirely by their attachment to something they don't need to be attached to. Yeah. So, I mean, you can describe it as all we're talking about is endless suffering, which is part of the equation, I'm afraid. But yeah, it is a stupid, contrived game. It has no purpose. It accomplishes nothing. And just because people identify that, you're going to say, what a limited, uninformed view of reality. So you're calling people limited and uninformed, which are both accusations. You might as well just say ignorant or stupid or fucktard. So again, this is your duplicity and hypocrisy. You can accuse people of being uninformed, and somehow that's okay in your elitist dictionary. It's okay to call somebody ill-informed or uninformed, but it's not okay to call them fucktard, stupid, or basically asshole, which a limited person would be, is an asshole or a retard, a dysfunctional mind. So again, just playing elitist word games. Your jargon of insult is okay. Other people's jargon of insult is not okay. Silly hypocrisy, duplicity, practiced by elitist wimps who have no argument. Yeah, that's right. Elitist, what shall I call you, a coward or an unbrave person. Yeah, elitist unbrave people who can't make an argument, so they have to resort to little elitist jargon. So anyway, I have never said my life is going very well, so fuck the suffering of all sentient beings. No, you've never said it directly, but it's exactly the implication of your rhetoric. There's absolutely no reason to talk about how much your heart bleeds for the poor animals in slaughterhouses when you don't just turn your vision to nature and say, holy fucking shit, it's a fucking slaughterhouse. That's all it is. I mean, organisms are built to fly full speed into brick walls, pretty much. I mean, a salmon, for example. Do you really think a salmon has some sort of perspective and says, oh yes, I will live for 3 years in the sea, chasing little animals down and eating them, causing them some pain and suffering, and then I will go back to my home stream and I will swim up the stream in some wonderful little ballet as my whole body metamorphizes into a sexual device and a competitive fighting device for sex, and then I will shoot my load, and then I will slowly decompose, rot, and die. And you think they have some poetic metaphor for that whole thing? No, they just endure it. They just experience it. Okay, as a practical fact. They become a completely disposable organism that is going to be used up just to lay a pile of eggs. Now that's, to me, is, you might as well exist as a parasite. You might as well exist as just a mechanism of you might as well be a nuclear bomb. You might as well be something that just absolutely sucks by its very nature. I mean, it's just stupid. Yeah, so you would say, leave them all to nature. Let nature fucking rip their skin off. Let nature kill 9 out of 10 of the young. And it's okay. We don't have to fucking worry about that because nature's doing it. The only suffering we have to worry about is the ones incidentally related to our pointless addictions, which would be very nice. But it's a tiny, 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 tiny percentage of the suffering being endured by sentient life on this shithole of a planet. So it's just, yeah, you might as well just say it's all okay. Because you're basically saying it's all okay. As long as the DNA does it, it's okay. It's just stupid. It's possible for me to be as concerned as you claim to be about suffering and not think I have to power or the inclination to assert that the remedy for suffering is eradicating all sentient life. Well, the simple truth is, okay, the game of life creates the sentience, creates the vulnerability. There's no doubt about that. If you don't put gas in the car, you don't drive the car, there will be no car accidents. Okay, so if you want to end car accidents, you don't drive cars. The only question is life providing some service, like a car, some functionality that's just decisively necessary, that has to be. If it doesn't exist, some shopping won't get done that has to get done for the universe. So exactly what shopping are we doing for the universe? What functionality? What kids of the universe are we picking up at school? What service are we providing to the universe that justifies putting gas in our cars and driving? Exactly. I would argue there's none. I would argue you haven't provided any glimmer of an explanation of what exactly we're accomplishing to justify the downside risk that is a fact of our existence. So you have downside risk and no real, rational possibility of accomplishing a motherfucking thing. So that spells pretty much failure. Yes, I think it does. All the 4 letters are there. Or 5. But putting words in other people's mouths seems to be something that anti-Natalists do very well. So why should that stop now? Well, whatever. I mean, that accusation can be made at you little fuckwits so easily. You constantly, the pro or anti-natalist constantly say things that we aren't saying, like we want you to kill yourself, or we want you to be depressed, or we want you to be unhappy, or we're trying to make everybody miserable, or some kind of other bullshit. That has nothing to do with the agenda, but it has to do with your convenience as a lie to distract and distort the argument. So you're cheat all over the place. You assume a lot. I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat since very, very young. He doesn't assume that in the video. So again, another one of your false accusations, your perversions of what was said in the video, which you do constantly. Never said. You poor, misunderstood anti-natalists. My philosophy is this: I'm not a megalomaniac. So it's, you know, I don't even want to get into what that even means. Because you could argue that, was Gandhi a megalomaniac? I mean, was anybody who stopped slavery, were they megalomaniacs? No one elected me the Grand Master of this beleaguered world. Well, I guess master would be a word that kind of comes with competence or capacity. So once you have the power, once the power is bestowed on you, with it comes responsibility to use it. So if somebody gave you a magic wand that gave you abilities and capacities, you would have now this responsibility, because now you could cure somebody's cancer, or you could fix some other problem by zapping your little wand. So yeah, you have to take responsibility for what you are. So whether anybody elected you or not, the truth is you have knowledge, and you have the power of knowledge and intelligence. And if you don't apply it to this big problem, the biggest problem in the world, then you're just denying your responsibility. You're just taking the magic wand and throwing it in your suitcase, or throwing it in the closet somewhere and saying, no, I can't do that. Well, that's just bullshit. That's just copping out. Unlike you and your fearless leader from New Jersey, I don't know how that's exactly relevant. You could just say, unlike you and your Emendum, or unlike you and Emendum might have been more appropriate. I have limits. Yeah, well, exactly how, you know, why you've decided to, again, disengage the value of your intellect to draw conclusions is your problem, actually. I mean, you'd have to explain to me why exactly I should put intelligence in the closet. That I can't apply intelligence to the question of whether DNA molecules know what the hell they're doing. I think it's a reasonable thing to ask. It's running the show now. Okay, so the President of the United States, if the President of the United States was a DNA molecule and had no ambition but to do reproduce and consume and reproduce, and it would be our obligation not to question that president, not to run a candidate against the president, not to do anything, just to sit back and say, well, it's president, we got to do what it says. I don't think so. The idea that we can stop suffering by stopping all life ignores the fact that life is determined to survive. Well, that's just, I will explain that in my one comment later. Well, I'm also might as well say it now. I mean, obviously most life that's ever existed on Earth has determined that it would like to be satisfied. All life doesn't try to survive. That's just nonsense right there. Determined to survive is nonsense. It's determined to eat because it's hungry, or it's driven by a mechanical process to eat. A microbe isn't determined to do anything. Okay, it's a machine. It's a little machine that's built to open its mouth and consume other things and then shit them out as, you know, chemical waste. That's what it does. It's not determined to do it. I mean, your dishwasher isn't determined to wash dishes. I mean, it's just a stupid argument to make. We can play AN games, or we can try to act to alleviate some suffering. Well, that's the argument. Again, you want to alleviate part of the problem because you're afraid of your power. So you want to just sit back and say, no, I'll let the DNA do it because I don't want to take responsibility. Even though I have, you know, a much more substantial knowledge base and understanding of the mechanics of the world, no, I'll leave Bozo, the retarded psychotic clown, in charge because I don't want the responsibility. And that's all you're saying. You don't want the responsibility. It's not that you can't, alright, take responsibility for what exists. It's just you won't. You'll leave people vulnerable to retards rather than carry the burden of actually having to apply your intelligence. Alright. So to Gray Guy, I think that it is not a good choice to bring children into the world as it is configured now. Alright, so you agree with anti-Natalism as long as the world sucks. Like current civilization somehow sucks more than past civilizations. Like it would have been okay to bring kids into the world in the Middle Ages, or right in the middle of the Black Plague. It would have made sense then, but it doesn't make sense now. That's an interesting concept. It was okay to bring them into the world when, like, say, your entire civilization was slaves to another civilization. It was a good idea to have kids then, because, yeah, you need kids to fight for your future freedom, or some kind of bullshit like that, right? But I refuse to take the absolutist position that I can force others to feel as I do. Well, it's not about how you feel, again. So you won't argue in defense of an understanding of reality. You'll oh well, no, I guess you'll do that selectively. So you will argue for selective belief systems, like animals feel pain. You'll argue for that as a theory. You'll argue for evolution as a theory. And so you're just being selective. You're selectively deciding which truths are, by your definition, truth. And so basically you're just saying, I don't think it's a truth that life is basically just chemistry out of control. I think life is whatever, phantasmagorical unicorn shit, or whatever you think it is. But you won't even articulate that. So it's, again, this is just complete and utter bullshit. You do take absolutist positions. You would impose some values on other people, like you will pass laws against rape or some other kinds of harm, and you're just not qualifying the distinction between which beliefs are more valid than other beliefs. That's all this is about. But why even put the word feel as I do? That's just so silly. And I do not think it makes, well, why are you thinking now and you were feeling before? What's the point of doing those two things interchangeably? It makes sense to say, why don't you just say here, I do not feel. It makes sense, because then we can just say, oh, well, that's where you made your big mistake here, is that you're feeling. Okay, psychology feels, intellect thinks. But whatever. To say all life must be extinguished, or we are helpless to alleviate the problem of suffering. Well, you're helpless to unravel the fact that it is an addiction game, like cigarettes or something else. I mean, the only way the game works is you have to basically create the addictive nature. You have to make the hunger before you can satisfy the hunger. You have to make the horny before you can satisfy the love or attachment or sex drive, however you want to describe that in its whole flower of its magnificent, beautiful, whatever, blah, 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 blah bullshit, your poetry for it. But it's just a functionality built out of a mechanism that creates a deprivation in the organism, a negative state, where now it must go into the world and acquire a satiation of that negative, a compensation. And it's usually a compensation made out of enslaving something else to its desire. Organisms are not passive recipient of environmental influence. A correct understanding, oh, see, now we have a correct understanding. Yeah, an interesting concept there. So there's if you just change this and put correct understanding, but I refuse to take the position that I can force others to accept my correct understanding. Yeah. You certainly can argue it, can't you? And exactly how is this force even applied? It's just kind of funny. I can force others, you know. So far, I think all we're doing is making YouTube videos. And so that's an exercise in force. Interesting. Understanding should emphasize the organism as an active constructor of its own environment. Well, I mean, it's just kind of silly. You know, if you take the determinism or the influences all the way, the cause and effect chain, it doesn't stop, and it doesn't start inside of a brain. There's no cause and effect chain that starts or originates or has in its origin in the brain. So this is just nonsense. Okay, you first have to have the education, and you have to be exposed to influences before you can mix those influences into some active constructor of its own environment. But it's always going to be an effect, not a cause. So that's just kind of bullshit. Yet the anti-Natalists claim that we are the helpless prisoners. Well, no, we're arguing that we're not helpless. That's the whole fucking point of a kind of vicious, brutal determinism. Well, no, we're prisoners of a game, okay, that is stupid. So this is your misparaphrase again. So now you're doing exactly that argument thing where you're making arguments people aren't making. This is a complete perversion of our argument into complete and utter nonsense. Determinism is no part of the anti-natalist argument. So again, now you're bringing that in here just to play some kind of word game. They are being both defeatist and sporting pseudo-scientific nonsense. So why can't you articulate some of this nonsense? What is what premised argument is pseudo-scientific nonsense? You'll never articulate that. You'll just use vague vague accusations. Well, Dawkins wouldn't say, and that's a lie anyway. So until you articulate this, you have no credibility whatsoever. Point out what quote, what statement is pseudo-scientific nonsense. What thing have I ever said would Dawkins say is pseudo-scientific nonsense? So you do that, you're just a slandering piece of shit. So anyway, defeatist. So it's defeatist to admit the truth. That's the definition of somebody who is a defeatist, a loser. A person who admits the truth is a loser, is an asshole, a defeatist. No, I'm sorry. It's the other way around. But when someone points out to that obvious fact, he or she can be assured that he, she will be the target of a lot of smug verbal abuse. Well, you're full of smug verbal abuse is all you produce on the internet. Every one of your videos, I think I could get Mr. Dawkins to say, yes, that was rather smug, that was smug verbal abuse used in that video. And yeah, you just use your elitist, safe words to impose your insults, like little words like defeatist and other bullshit words, and calling people pseudo-scientific. So your little smug verbal abuse is all over. It litters every one of your utterances. So anyway, but you don't point out any obvious facts. You don't touch making the argument. Much of that abuse will be delivered in the same soundbite format they heard in Stickam. So you're saying that, so every time you say something that is all similar in its form or shape, any cliches you use or metaphors you use that somebody else has ever used, we can just say that you learned that in Stickam. So we'll just make that the general accusation from now on. Anytime somebody says something that somebody said before, we'll just say, oh well, yeah, you learned that in Stickam. Yeah, that's just another cheap shot. Oh, they're just mimicking. So we'll just say that about every one of you. How about that? And then you can just waste your time explaining how you didn't steal everything you've ever said in your life. But anyway, are one of the convoluted slurring videos which AN produce in abundance. Again, prove it. You can't prove any of that. You can't go find the verbal abuses. The place where we'll find the verbal abuses is in the cheap psychology of a Duspuke or a Professor Anton. All the people that you think are making reasonable arguments to the contrary. The mockings of, say, a Piro video. We could just go right down the list of everybody doing any defending of this natalism shit, and every fucking one of their videos is just a slanderous attack on a person's psychology and has absolutely nothing to do with any philosophical argument. So again, you fail. It's just the evidence is decisively contrary to your description of it. Alright, Shock of Lemonade, yeah, that's his name. The whole direction of this has been pointless waste of time, so now you are claiming that you want to unfetter the will in order to have the human species somehow choose to extinguish itself. Well, the fact that we are obviously fettered, our will is fettered by historical notions and traditional ideals, okay, that have completely perverted description and definition. I mean, if you're going to argue that the human race hasn't completely misunderstood what life is for most of its existence. I mean, 99% of the time the human race has existed on this shithole, they have believed that life was some sort of phantasmagorical creation. They have not understood it as a single cell that reproduced itself 4 billion years ago, and that basically learned by killing its own kind, by brutal competition, how to be the victor and to rape the spoils. So yes, that has been a complete lie. We have lived a lie for most of our existence, and now the truth is there, it's in front of us, and it's how the human race deals with that truth is the question. I'm exhausted with the pointlessness. Yeah, well, whatever. Obviously, I think your non-solution, your tiny, tiny little band-aid that you're putting on the infectious, deep, horrid wound that has been created on this planet is laughable. I give up. Anti-Natalists are a total waste of time and energy. Well, like I said, you're a total waste of space and matter. So fine. Just keep patting each other on the back and telling each other how brilliant and right you are. I bet I could find a ton of that going on between you little fuckwits. You make completely inarticulate, silly nonsense videos and applaud each other as if you made a brilliant point, and all you did was stick your tongue out basically and go and blow some air across it and watch it flap back and forth. How the rest of the humankind are not intelligent enough to understand you. Well, the truth is you don't make an intelligent argument. You just keep making accusations, and you don't back them up with any facts, and that's just the definition of not intelligent. That's what not intelligent people do. Okay, they just keep making accusations and back nothing up with anything called a fact. They just resort to the argument from authority or the argument from nature and do nothing else. DNA cultist bitch. Have you ever asked yourself why you must resort to this kind of nonsense? Well, like I said, I can just quote all your uninformed pseudoscience, blah, blah, blah. Okay, can I ask you why you never defend any of your accusations with an actual quote and an actual factual description of an alternative reality? Not one of your made-up suppositions. It is invariably true that an AN feel they must insult anyone who disagrees with them and their sloppy thinking. Well, again, yours is the sloppy thinking. You haven't explained what the human race is accomplishing to justify one individual pain, let alone 50 million people dying in World War II. Again, I was amazed by this in the beginning, but now I recognize this strategy for what it is, a complete inability to form a cogent argument. Well, again, I will put our cogent arguments against yours any day. And I don't care. We can find any independent judge to judge those cogent arguments. But it'll be very curious to see. Well, again, you're going to say there are people who will tell you that. Darwin's hamster seems a pretty honest sort. And he hasn't found your cogent argument yet. He's asked you to recite it and you still haven't. So why don't you make your cogent argument too, Darwin's hamster? But you don't do that. Instead, you just play this game where you keep arguing a point with, people who are quite sick of your existence, just as you are sick of theirs. Ignores the fact that life is determined. This is my comment. Yet most of life forms that have ever existed are extinct, making your mush fact logically useless. There is no obstacle to curing this infestation. The obstacle is will. And your selfish will is to continue to impose 99.999% of the wasted suffering, important concept, as cultishly directed by a dumb molecule, just to validate your plainly unwarranted hope and unmeritorious existence. So yeah, until you come up with this warranted hope, some sort of reasonable definition or description of this alternative reality you think the animals on Earth are going to live in, you completely fail. And I mean the sentient life. So don't talk to me about how, oh yeah, one day the human race is all going to wear white robes, and everybody's just going to walk up to each other and say, howdy, 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 dowdy, how you doing? I love you too. Oh, you're just the cutest little Teletubby ever. Describe this fucking reality that you think you're going to create. No religion, no wars, no borders. Yes, we're all going to love each other. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, describe how that's realistic hope. You make sloppy, unfounded arguments, claim that all life is an infestation, and then you use that unsubstantiated conclusion. Okay, so it's an unsubstantiated conclusion that life is an infestation. I think it qualifies. Okay, it's a piece of a piece of chemistry that became biology on planet Earth, and it basically has one mission, which is to blanket the surface of the Earth or any energy exposed place on Earth. Any place that is exposed to energy, life will show up to consume it. I mean, I think that's the definition of an infestation. And then you will use that unsubstantiated conclusion to claim that no obstacle to curing this infestation. Well, I'm sorry, yeah, there's no obstacle. We can, just as life was begin, it can be ended. Just as every species has been, every 99% of species have been destroyed on this planet, this species can be destroyed, and the ones that exist now can be destroyed. Who elected you the Orkin man of the universe? I didn't need to be elected. I've drawn an intelligent conclusion, and you haven't countered that intelligent conclusion with a rational argument. So until somebody comes up with a rational argument, I will continue to state what is the obvious truth, that life is an infestation, that it actually does not serve any purpose. It doesn't even wipe an old universe's ass in its nursing home or anything. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't function to do anything but reproduce for the sake of reproduction, which is the definition of failure. Because I did not get a vote. Well, I mean, eventually you will. Everybody will get a vote. The human race will have to decide whether it's going to be an asshole or whether it's going to take responsibility. But I'm afraid you don't get a vote on me having my right to make my opinion public and to express it on the internet. You don't get a vote to say I'm not allowed to say something and back it up with evidence, unlike you who just slander people and don't back it up with any evidence, and who make you an infallible prophet of the future. Well, again, fallibility has to be created. All right, the fact that I'm infallible might just be evidence of how impotent you are at doing anything called intellectualisms. Okay, you're not up to the challenge. I mean, maybe my whole philosophy is rubbish, but the point is that yours is obvious rubbisher, because you can't seem to muster the ability to make a rational argument disproving a single thing I've said, or even diminishing it as logical or reasonable. You can do nothing but attack me as being some sort of thing, a prophet from New Jersey. That's the best you can do, is throw a silly little puke insult. But you can't make a rational argument. Where is your hypothetical crystal ball? Well, I didn't need one. I make videos explaining exactly what I see and why I see it. I see it because we have fossils. You've heard of evolution, right? You've heard of Dawkins. You've heard of the evidence of evolution. Well, the consequence of evolution is that it's made out of consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. Now do something. Add a fifth word, or do something to deny the existence of those four. But, yeah, it's not hypothetical. That's the biological facts, okay, are not hypothetical. They are facts now, which tell us which tell you that the future is unrelenting suffering. Well, the point is that, again, you describe your future reality. Because, yes, the machines that we are not meant to be satisfied. They are meant to be hungry, and they're sort of built to satisfy that hunger, unfortunately, in very, well, how should we say, psychological rather than philosophical ways. They don't satisfy their hunger the Vulcan way. They satisfy it the human way, which is basically steal it from somebody else. With all due respect, and even after your incessant barrage of silly insults, I just have to point out that you have no clue what scientific determinism actually is, nor do you understand the complexities of evolution. Well, this is always your accusation, that there's something complex about evolution. Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. What are the other ingredients of evolution of life on Earth? I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to keep making this argument that there's something else going on here. You're just not. It's a DNA molecule spreading. Groupthink and cultism emanate from this video. So this is more of your elitism. I'll call people group thinkers. I'll insult their intelligence again. I'll insult their integrity as human beings, their integrity as individuals, and that's okay. But fucktard isn't. Cultism. I'll call them cultism. I'll call them might as well just say Jim Jones followers or some kind of other bullshit. Yeah, that's not insulting. Nobody should be insulted by that rhetoric. No. So whatever. And again, these terms can just be thrown right back at you. You're the one that has no character to your belief system. You don't even have a Bible. You're just thumping your hand at other people and saying, "Believe me, because it's me. I say so." That's all you're doing. You're just saying, "I say so. We don't know enough. There's magic in the universe. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me." That's all you're saying. You don't even have a book of dogma. You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing. You don't even have a prophet from New Jersey. You have nothing. You're just saying, "I believe in unicorns." without saying I believe in unicorns, from this video, and from most every anti-natalist video I've ever seen. So again, just make an accusation, force other people to have to defend their credibility. You know, just the typical standard waste of fucking goddamn time. You didn't prove anything here. You didn't provide a single fact. You just made accusations. And that's all you goddamn do, is keep making personal accusations, demeaning the character of the individual psychologies of the people making arguments, and that's all you ever fucking do. So you might as well just say, "You're fat ass." Okay, that's the extent of your argument here. You ugly fuck. That's all you might as well say. It's the same thing intellectually. UANs are determined to play the same game that 8-year-olds play on the playground. You say the rules of the game aren't fair. Now, right there, isn't that funny? I'm not going to play. I mean, what is exactly irrational about that 8-year-old concept? So 8-year-olds apparently can figure out that when a game is unfair, you shouldn't play it. So 8-year-olds can figure that out, but you can't. Interesting. And you love to follow up that with, we're good and you're bad. Well, I mean, if if one thing is causing harm and another thing is trying to stop harm, I guess that would be good and bad. So, yeah, that seems to be a reasonable distinction. So, I mean, you know, are responsible drivers not allowed to say it's bad to be a drunk driver? I mean, please, explain to me how not making distinctions between right behavior and wrong behavior would make sense. That would make sense not to make a distinction. Get some new material, please. Yeah, the other ones with no material, you just keep saying, believe me because I say so. I say so. I say so. And every now and then I'll throw Dawkins' name in there like he believes in me. But he doesn't. You have no evidence that Dawkins would watch your video and then watch my video and say that you're right and that I'm wrong. No evidence whatsoever. I'd like to say something about David Bowen, but I'll stop myself. Well, whatever, who cares? By the way, you mistaken call flailing, I call thinking out loud. No, you're accusing out loud. You're throwing mud out loud. You're just being a slanderous pig out loud. You're farting at people and calling it an argument. Right, cognitive dissonance, who cares? My position, here we go. We should each act to do all within our power to alleviate suffering. Well, what exactly am I doing that's outside my power? Expressing an opinion is not outside my power. Suggesting that the human race should do more than it's doing is not outside my power. That suggestion is quite doable. But anyway, we should have enough humility to know that draconian solutions, you mean complete solutions, don't you? Which claim to be based on the truth, well, you know, that have been demonstrated, that haven't been demonstrated to be untruthful, and which insist that only solution to suffering is the eradication of life, is absurd hubris. Well, exactly. So you're going to claim that it's hubris, and yet you're not going to make one single rational argument explaining the hubris of it. Exactly what does the human race accomplish to justify one bird falling from a nest? Explain it to me, please. Besides satisfy your contrived addiction. If you weren't hungry, none of it would mean anything. It would be unedible. It's only your hunger that makes any of this crap something you want to put in your mouth, chew, and swallow. So the whole thing is a contrived desire, and yet you're calling it absurd hubris to acknowledge that fact. Yeah, well, that makes you, again, that's just slander. It's hardly, you can't call something absurd hubris if you can't even make an argument suggesting why it's wrong, a rational argument. You and other anti-Natalists are not persuasive. Well, yeah, we haven't persuaded, you know, the religious nuts. And that's all you are. You're a follower of the DNA molecule, a fundamentalist loopy kook who's got that dogma written on your soul. And, yeah, you're a little bit impervious to a rational argument because you're too attached to your bullshit. And a good proportion of anti-Natalists are mere opinionated bullies. Yeah, well, you seem to be the one who just has opinions, okay? You spout conclusions absurd humorous, but you don't back them up with anything. I mean, again, how is the eradication of life a horror? Explain the horror. If life doesn't exist on planet Earth, please explain the horror. What awful, awful thing will take place the day after life is eradicated or no longer exists? I mean, if it was smashed tomorrow by a comet the size of the Earth and it was instantaneously particularized, explain to me what harm would take place the next day. I see very little evidence that AN do anything but incessantly complain because they are the only ones who care about suffering. No, well, they're the ones pointing out that there's still 99.99% of the suffering takes place outside of the human condition. Okay? The vast substance of suffering takes place within the mechanism of the evolving DNA molecule, and that mechanism is as insidious as any tobacco company's bottom line manipulation of human psychology. And lament the fact that they are almost no takers for their draft idea that the only way to stop suffering is to stop life. Well, I don't know. We haven't really taken a survey of people, so I don't know. You know, which idea has migrated into conversation on YouTube, and again, if we take all the people who are supporting anti-Natalism and then we take all the people who are making videos against it and we gave them IQ tests, or is your argument the smarter people are the ones who are natalists? I don't think so. I have a question. Why do anti-Natalists feel a compulsion to incessantly preach the futility of life? Well, because it's a fact of life. That's why. That's right. You do nothing. If you're not hungry, you're not deprivated, you will do nothing. They have decided that they know that evolution dictates life is futile suffering. No, what dictates the fact that it's wasted suffering is what it is. All right? Because life does not accomplish a purpose. It does not function to do anything. It is self-justifying, which is not good enough. It needs to be justified by actually producing something of value. It produces nothing of value. It produces addiction. Addiction is not a valuable commodity. To see where this cultist ideology originates, just look at the misunderstanding of evolutionary theory, which is, in the main, propagated by someone in New Jersey. Again, this idea of New Jersey as being some sort of, it's like an offense to live in New Jersey now, who refuses to look at any data. Well, see this here. Every time I've gone and looked at your data, I have made videos decisively proving you to be a fraud and a sham and a scammer and a snake oiler. All right, you talked about all this stupid bullshit in the past. I've gone to your documentation, and I demonstrate, like epigenetics. Okay, you claimed that we could, through our lifestyle, enhance our DNA profile, and I demonstrated that no, we can't. The only thing we can do is mistreat our bodies, break our eggs and our sperm, and create defective children. And that's the best we can do. We can make defective children quite easily, but we can't make better children through better lifestyle. That's nonsense. We can only degrade the quality of our sperm and egg. We cannot enhance their quality through any act we commit in our life. And I proved that, and I demonstrated that. So you, again, were the one selling the lie. I demonstrated it to be a lie. Case closed. You have no right to say this shit. You're the one who has committed the crime against the truth, not I. Just goes to the same litany of complaint whether he's asked to support his rightly inflexible views. Whenever he's asked to support his rigidly inflexible views. Well, I'm sorry, I just don't understand. Why should I be convinced? So if any little nutty, homeless, loopy, crazy fuck walks up to me and says, I know the tin can is God, tin can, the tin can told me so, I'm rigidly inflexible because I say, well, until you have some evidence, asshole, I'm not buying it. Well, where's your evidence of your damn unicorn, your unicorn of hope, your unicorn of human purpose, your unicorn of biological functionality? Where are these unicorns? Show me some evidence of the existence of these unicorns, and maybe I won't be rigidly inflexible then. But without any evidence, just you saying, I believe it, trust me. Well, fuck you, I can't trust you. Okay, you've demonstrated yourself to be not trustworthy. Alright, we are in essence a replicating molecule which blindly adapts itself to its surroundings through random mutations. Its sole purpose is to replicate itself, and it is blind as to its host suffering. Okay, so that's somebody's contention. River Hurst guy, smart guy, good guy. I'm so sick of this invasion of the body snatcher's literal view of the complexity. So again, complexities of evolutionary theory. I'm sorry, evolution is not complex. It is dirt simple in the fact of what principles are involved. And the principle involved is competition and environmental circumstance. It is a deterministic universe, so even that is suspect. But that simple premise is the premise of the mechanism, and it has no. It can cover the world with yummy, pretty gumdrops, or it could cover the world with the skankiest, dirtiest, smelly shit on earth. Either one of those possibilities are what nature can produce. There is no complexity here. There is a mechanism of reproduction. It can be Tyrannosaurus, or it can be orangutan. Even Richard Dawkins would take profound issue with this cultist ideology. I challenge you, okay, maybe we can pay Dawkins $1,000. Alright, you make a 20-minute video, I'll make a 20-minute video, and we'll see which one Richard Dawkins can find fault with. Or to say there's a logical error or a misunderstanding of a truth. Okay, I'll challenge you to that. I challenge you to get Richard Dawkins to find one error in my life, the short story. I would take profound issue with this cultist ideology, if he could be bothered with such fringe and unfounded claim. Well, I mean, it's sort of a profoundly, directly implicating claim. Just like his claims were judged outrageous when first made. So that would be a gross hypocrisy on Richard Dawkins' part, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think it would be. You're not going to listen to me because I'm a fringe? Oh, it doesn't have to do with what I can factually argue or logically argue. It just has to do with my status. Yeah, fuck you, and more elitist crap. It's obvious to me that you have not read Dawkins with the attention he deserves. No, it's obvious to me that you are perverting Dawkins at every convenience. You even use that little PR paragraph that Dawkins added to qualify his selfish gene title of his book, where he basically said absolutely nothing except to soften the language, but retracted nothing. I did say, trust me, I leave baseless assertions of truth to the anti-Natalists. They are expert at it. Well, again, they're not baseless assertions of the truth. They are directly and explicitly stated, unlike your assertions of truth that have no explicit statement, that are ambiguous, mushy statements like, well, everybody thinks life is cool. You have to do a little better than that. The argument from popularity doesn't go anywhere. The argument from fringe doesn't go anywhere. However, the fact he ignores is his own conclusion by trying to bridge the gap between, well, let's not get into this phenotype crap, that's a little bit too inane. And they're both talking past each other. Just for clarity, phenotype, okay, so then she retracted that. Anyway, my alternative is that we can each do what we can to alleviate suffering. Well, yes, you can cure disease or you can buy Band-Aids. Those are your choices, that's for sure. But we also need to realize that short of draconian intervention, would you have draconianly intervened in the abolishment of slavery? I think it needed a draconian intervention. So yeah, it's just your discretion. You say when it's right to fix something, and you say when it's wrong to fix something. And you don't articulate why slavery is worth stopping, but biological addiction is not. We can't advocate the eradication of all life to accomplish the goal of stopping suffering. Yes, we can. We're doing it quite articulately and decisively. intellectually compared to your slanderous psychobabble New Jersey mush. Individuals can attempt, without gratuitous insult or bullying, like bringing up New Jersey twice in one comment section, to persuade other individuals to see the precarious position we and other life forms find ourselves. Whatever, you want to persuade people that chocolate ice cream tastes better than vanilla, that's your choice. And we can support animal welfare and measure to pursue other sane alternatives to alleviate suffering. Well, again, yeah, you can, this is Band-Aid bullshit. And there's nothing wrong with making Band-Aids and doing Band-Aids, but you have to recognize that while you're doing Band-Aids, you could have perhaps been working towards a cure. And sometimes that's got to be done, because if nobody does it, then, you know, syphilis wouldn't have been cured unless one man spent 7 years devoted to that purpose. Took down my comment, but I have to add your idea of mine about what constitutes substantive action to eliminate suffering. Do you not agree? Well, I don't know. The problem with AN, at least a certain fraction of them here on YouTube, is that only you lot know the truth. No, we defend an argument logically. There's a fact of evolution. We explain how those facts spell a rather dismal picture for the prospects for the human race, for the prospects of all living things on this planet, because we're basically made of shit: consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. And unfortunately, those ingredients just don't go anywhere. Sorry, but this seems to be very cultist behavior. Yeah, it's cultist to argue the facts and the evidence. That's exactly what cults do. They argue the facts and the evidence. You're the one name-dropping. You're doing the L. Ron Hubbard says-so bullshit. We're not doing that. We're not giving you some sort of preposterous alien theory. So fuck you. You anti-Natalists have the only way to salvation. We must accept your truth. Well, I'm just saying, the point is you can't reject the truth without an argument. So until you make a valid, contrary explanation of what life is doing on planet Earth, yes, we're allowed to call what we're spouting the truth, until you do something to diminish its credibility as a theory. We have a theory. Point out how the theory is wrong. Sorry, I'm not buying what you and our Krishna are selling. So you can call Krishnas, you call people Krishnas, and that's not an insult. So fucktard's not okay, but Krishna's okay. Even if others are gullible to do so. So gullible's okay. Fucktard's not okay. Fuck you, bitch. Yeah, it's rather difficult to make it through life. Afflicted with genetic or trauma-induced abnormality present at birth. If you are speaking of yourself or someone close to you, yeah, this life can be horrible and very unfair. So right there, can't we just stop? Life can be horrible and very unfair. What are you going to do about that? Oh, that's right, nothing. Situations like yours are extremely unjust. So it's extremely unjust, and you'll let it stay. So just like slavery. Slavery was extremely unjust. So we should have kept slavery, though, because it was incredibly productive. Okay, in the long term, yeah, it was completely defendable. Yeah, but it's extremely unjust. Well, that's irrelevant. We're not going to worry about that. So it doesn't matter that life, to have your existence and your comfortable, whatever you want to call it, Western lifestyle, the fact is you commit extreme injustice. And that's a fact. And it's okay, though, because you're not the victim of it. But advocating the eradication of all life is not a remedy for those horrible injustices. Well, I'm afraid it is a remedy, a decisive remedy. And it's sad to see so many people who are willing to subscribe to the fallacy that it is. Well, again, you can keep saying something's a fallacy, you can keep making this stupid accusation, but you back it up. Again, no evidence of how it is inaccurate as a description. Not one single iota of evidence. Not a logical argument, not a factual from fact. You have an argument, you haven't argued from evidence. You have to argue from evidence. So I don't know what this is. Superficial yenta. Yeah, well, I mean, you deserve to be called whatever name you get called because you're a bitch. LOL, spoken like a true anti-natalist. Don't you anti-natalists know how to do anything but insult? Again, that's all your rhetoric is layered with. You call people cultists. You imply they're prophets. You yeah, I'm not gonna go through the insults in here, but yeah, I mean, it's really funny. It's a fucking sick, disgusting, sad, tragic joke that you can play these games, lying right to yourself. It's futile to state the obvious here. It's refreshing to see that you are that you at least try. So she's talking to Tranquil, who's an idiot. As for what is new is the current action. What is new is the current actions it now inspires in the modern world. The only action anti-Natalism seems to inspire on YouTube is their sanctimonious, so now you're calling people sanctimonious, insistence that they are the sole arbiter of right action. No, they're making an argument, just like people made an argument against slavery. They're making an argument against the forced march that is DNA propagation. Yes, in a wider world, some AN might give donations to Planned Parenthood or support groups for animal welfare. Some of them might waste their time making band-aids, that's all you're saying here, and others won't. They'll devote their time to curing the disease. But here on YouTube, they mostly just seem to use insults to make their point. No, they make their point, so you can make this accusation it's mostly insults. No, you're the one who provokes you're the one with the insults. Again, who starts the insults? Go watch my 20-minute video and tell me where the insults are, bitch. Alright, bitch? I'm going to keep calling you a bitch until you explain where the insults in that 20-minute video are, bitch. Okay, you're a silly nonsense. You're a rude, obnoxious, supercilious. Yeah, I'll call you supercilious. I don't know exactly what it means, but it sounds like what you are. Jackass. Just farting. Your big fat ass, you stick it in front of the camera and you fart out of it with your insults. You haven't made an argument defending anything here. Go take my 20-minute video, the short story of life on Earth. Point out first the insults, and then second, point out how one single sentence of it is wrong in theory. Go do it. Till then, shut the fuck up. Okay. So enough of a video. Just ran out of time, almost an hour. Ooh, it's almost as long as Das Spook video, who I'll take care of later in the week. But yeah, Das Spook can go fuck his, egotistical, sick motherfucking psychological basket case self. What a piece of fucking goddamn smelly turd that guy is. Ugh. Ugh.